everyone, welcome to the Creative Shelf. You're joining me on a warm but overcast day in Brussels. So good to have you here. Yes, the hashtag is 22 faves. Now, I have several midweek pop-ups planned for this week, but this one I really wanted to do. And it's been coming up on my feed. I have seen that I think there were videos done a few years ago. I haven't seen anything recently, but maybe I've missed it. The principle is to take the major arcana and then pick your favorite representation of that card from various different decks. It's pretty simple, it's pretty easy, and I thought it would be fun. Until I started preparing for this video, and then I thought, wow, that's actually a major task. But I have loved doing it, and I hope it's going to be as much fun for you to watch as it was for me to put together. If you have 22 faves and you'd love to jump in, I'd like to see your video about it. I just think it's a cool concept. And again, thank you for joining me today. So without further ado, let's jump right in. As always, I will be listing all the decks below. So if you're new to tarot and you're curious, you can also just kind of find the deck as well for yourself. So without further ado, let me start off with the Fool, because of course we're right at the beginning of the journey. And so here's my representation of the Fool. Yes, it's none other than the Light Seers deck by Chris Ann. So let me find the deck as well, actually, as we go through this. So this is the deck. Here we go. So this is the deck that I bought last year at Christmas. Now, this is a very famous tarot deck. I won't open it up and show you everything because you can find it. But basically, I picked the Fool because from this deck because I know in traditional tarot, the Fool has always been shown as the male gender. Of course, you know, it's how one identifies. But I just thought it was wonderful when I first saw the Fool here as what I see as a female representation, because I just don't see that enough. And it was just lovely. And also, you know, this woman, this brunette, just I don't see sometimes enough of this kind of of imagery, and I loved it. She looks carefree. She looks like she's ready to set off. You can see, you know, there's risk. There's the undertaking. She's got a crystal in her hand. There's that beautiful geometric pattern appearing, you know, in the waters. The whole thing just comes together so well, and I loved it. What she doesn't have in here is a companion, but you know, I just think that the whole thing just comes together so perfectly well. And I think the crystal is a bit more like the companion on this one. But anyway, I absolutely love this representation of the Fool, and it's from the Light Seers deck, and it just fills me with this kind of anticipation and this feeling of just you know, when can I get going kind of thing. And that's so kind of like me. So yeah, anyway, so that's my pick for the Fool card. Okay, so the next one is from one of my favorite artists. Now, this was a bit of a struggle, and I have to say that this whole journey has been about also finding my favorite artist, because I have sometimes several decks by the same artist. So it's none other, for the Magician, it's none other than from the Forhaxa. So this is a deck by MJ Cullen, and this is an indie deck. I still need to do the review of this. I absolutely adore this deck. I only got it recently in the last print run. But this is a representation of the Magician, and again, it's just amazing. She's drawing in all the elements, but she's empowered. She's ready to create. I love the black wings. I'm someone that really identifies with the energy of kind of like a darker fae. That's the best way I can put it. I'm really a fae person, basically. And I love this. I mean, she's standing in the cold, but the green shoots are coming out. We have, you know, the representations of earth and air and fire and water. I mean, everything is there. Just, you know, the seeds of new beginnings, and how she's tapping into that energy. She's drawing in from as above, so below. Just everything is in this card. I love her blue tint. I love the fact that, you know, it's color done in a different way. I think MJ Cullen is an amazing artist. I also love her the Crow Tarot. I didn't put it into this selection because, again, this exercise became my favorite artist more than anything else. But her Crow Tarot as well is it's one of my favorites, basically. So for representation for MJ Cullen, and I chose the Forhaxa for this, but it could have easily been from one of her other decks. But again, here is the Magician, and very empowered, very strong, and very ready to do business, you know, so I love it. Okay, so the one after that, right, is basically the High Priestess. And for the High Priestess, let me find the deck to go with it. We have, of course, we have the High Priestess from the Golden Art Nouveau. Now, this is a low Scarabeo deck. It's one of my favorites. It's when I said, you know, that I actually finally really fell in love with the Rider-Waite Smith, because the people in it look human, basically, and the original RWS I'm not a huge fan of, because the people just don't look so human, to be quite honest to me. But in this one, you know, I love it. She looks so regal, so poised, so in charge. I think that the art for this deck is amazing. These are the backs. Living in Brussels, you know, I see a lot of Art Nouveau. We are part of the home of Art Nouveau here. I used to live actually right opposite the Horta Museum for a while as well, on Rue Americain. So, you know, Art Nouveau to me is like literally the house opposite, the house next door, that kind of thing. And I love this deck because it has captured that very well. And I love this High Priestess because she just looks so graceful, so ready to go between worlds, tapping into that intuition. There's just something about her demeanor that's so calm. And when I want to feel calm, I do think of the High Priestess. I do think that energy so potently held in that vibe. Now, the High Priestess is ruled by the moon, but I sometimes reallocate her to Neptune, because Neptune has that ability to kind of like transcend to that spirit world. You know, Neptune rules Pisces, and I really love that kind of like water energy that flows. I'm a fixed water sign, I'm a Scorpio, but I really like tapping into the Neptunal Piscean energy, because, you know, that's what I'd like to be as well. You know, that's like I borrow from my sister sign sometimes, and so Pisces is my sister sign, one of them. So it's just a joy sometimes for me to be able to just look at the High Priestess and just know that wisdom, that knowledge. You know, of course, this is referring back, this is tarot, but it's also, you know, a reference to the Torah. So it's just tapping into that knowledge of wisdom and Sophia, which I really love from this card, and I think it represents it very well with that blue, the yellows, and that puncture of red coming in as well. You know, just those seeds and those fruits divine that we see also in the Empress. Okay, so that's from the Golden Art Nouveau, and that's the High Priestess. Okay, so the next one, without further ado, is the Empress. Now, this is an unusual choice for me. My very first tarot deck, the one that I really bonded with after using the RWS Classic, which I think many of us just learned from it at the beginning, but the one that really spoke to me and spoke to my heart, and the one that I read with in my first few years of doing tarot, is the Paulina Faye. And I like Paulina Cassidy's work subsequently very much. I picked another from one of her other decks, sorry, best way to put it. I picked this time from Joie de Vivre. This is a new deck of, well, it's not a new deck of hers, but it's one that I've newly added to my collection this spring. I love her artwork, basically. And this time, Empress, here it is from Joie de Vivre. Now, the reason why I picked this was we have less of that pregnant energy. You know, we can imagine her pregnant in her early pregnancy stage. I can't get the words out today. But I love the skulls in this. It's so Persephone in a different form. I love the cushion of Venus. Now it's being held like a shield. I love just the interplay between death and birth and the way it's been represented here. I think Paulina Cassidy is an amazing artist. I think the deck, the latest one, Phantasma, is printed under the name of Paulina Faye. So if you might be a bit confused there, it's the same artist. But she just has this way of capturing so much detail in her cards. And in this one, you can see the constellation above. You can see like a nest of eggs. I mean, whenever I've read with one of Paulina's decks, I am never short of finding a symbol that I need for that reading. And sometimes it might be something, you know, these flowers below speaking to me. Sometimes it might be the skulls on her beautiful skirt. Sometimes it might be those hearts. Sometimes it might be, you know, this staff up here. But I just really love Paulina Cassidy's work, and this Empress card has always struck me as very clever, and an Empress in a different way kind of thing for me. And again, it's a representation of the Fae energy, which I always love. So here it is. This is Joie de Vivre, and this is the Empress. Okay, so the next one. Now, again, it's a bit of a trip in art forms that I love. And so this one is the Emperor. Here he is. And the deck that I've used is, let me get it the right way around, the Dreaming Way Tarot. So yes, now the reason why I picked the Emperor from this deck, and actually I like quite a lot of the cards from this deck, but this one was, I really love his outfit in this. I love the design. I think the Dreaming Way has this way of doing costumes, which is really intriguing. The fashion side of me just loves the Dreaming Way and the Dreaming Way Tarot, and I just really love, you know, this interplay of black and white, you know, those checkered patterns. Then we've got this beautiful kind of like plaid cloak over him. The way the staff has been just done, so understated. He's not on a traditional throne. He's more really in that emperor territory. The dandelions, it's just, I think these are dandelions. Are they? It's just gorgeous. I like the way he's seated. I like the way that the knee is slightly askew, the way that traditionally is in the emperor. And I like the fact that, you know, he's not looking at towards us, he's looking away. So yes, so I just had to pick this, but more than anything, the reason why was I absolutely just love the costume in this particular card. And I think the Dreaming Way Tarot is known for its kind of like very strange kind of like interplay of clothing, let's put it that way. So anyway, if you're interested, this is the Dreaming Way Tarot. Okay, so the next deck, and bear with me because I've got quite a lot of boxes out and about here, but I will be able to get to it. Here it is. Whoa, this is what happens, right? When you do a video like this, you have to kind of like find lots, well, you have to get lots of your decks out basically. Okay, so I picked for the Hierophant, I picked this because I just thought it was just such an amazing, modern, empowering Hierophant. Look at that lady. Now, she is from the Mermaid Tarot by Lisa Robertson and artwork by Julie Dillon. This is a large Llewellyn box deck. I used this last year in the summer. I did some challenges over with Boho Tarot's Facebook group, and that's when I decided to make use of my like ocean deck, and I love this deck. I've actually since then thought, should I get another ocean deck? And I actually really like this one, so I've still held on to it. But this is the Hierophant. Now, the reason why I picked it from this card is because I really like the fact that we're finally seeing diversity in our decks. I like the fact that she's shown as in control, in charge, but studious. You know, she's really tapping into the work of the Hierophant, which is bringing us knowledge and helping us to become educated. You know, I always see the Hierophant as my link towards higher education. And even though I qualified and, you know, and I did my degrees many years ago, many moons ago, yeah, it's coming up to nearly 2 decades actually, since I left uni, but still to this day, I always believe higher education and learning is a huge part of my life. You know, I'm still undertaking more and more, and you know, this just reminds me that at whatever point I can sit down and let the Hierophant guide me to my next stage of learning. And I just love this. I love also the way that I don't know what kind of a fish, to be quite honest with you, I don't know what kind of fish she is in there. She's probably a mermaid, I think, in this one. She's not, yeah, she is a mermaid in this. But I love that fin coming out. I love the energy of this card. It is just so strong, so powerful, so regal. And if I wanted somebody to help give me, you know, advice and guidance on wise choices, this is the kind of Hierophant that I'd like to go to. Okay, so the next one is the Lover's card. So again, this is like a bit of an exercise on artist, and I had to get Will Worthington for this one. So let me find the deck that I'm going to show you. Here it is. Moving things around again. Here we go. It is, of course, the Druidcraft, and this is the Lover's card from the Druidcraft. Warning, I should have warned, there may be some nudity in this video, but yes, here is the Lover's card. I love the art. I sometimes can feel myself, you know, inside this landscape, inside this art. I love the doe that's looking on. It's like, you know, the act's been done, you know, a choice has been made. And for me, the Lover's card, that Gemini energy of choices, of, you know, did I do the right thing? Am I going in the right direction? This really sums it up. I just like the fact that they're exhausted, so they're resting, but not realizing perhaps, you know, what did we just do here? And I love that doe looking on, like I've mentioned before. I love the light coming in from the background. The way her foot is seated. I mean, yeah, there's something about that that's so satiated, and yet they're at the beginning of the journey. So it's kind of like a bit of a warning, you know, being heeding that warning. And I think Will Worthington has done that beautifully. So this is from the Druid craft. I equally could have taken a card from the Wildwood Tarot. So, you know, tough choices were being made here basically, but there you go. Okay, so the next one is the Chariot. So this is again a deck that I fell in love with, and it was earlier this year. This is one of my favorite decks. Nancy from Paper Moon Tarot sent me her indie version of this because she knew I fell in love with it. I have the mass market. I love both. I love the mass market and the indie version. If you're curious, you don't need to buy the indie version. The mass market's fine. It is, of course, the Dreamkeepers Tarot, and this is the Chariot from it. I thought this was captured by Liz Houston so well. You see there that the conflict of choices between our logic and rationale vis-a-vis our passion. So of course it's the Lover's card really coming alive now in the Chariot. You can see that Cancerian energy, she's being whisked away towards the cosmos. I love here, you know, the fact that, of course, you know, again, we have the sign of Cancer. The sign of Cancer is ruled by the moon. So we have here the moon there that's being shown here. I mean, Liz Houston really understands her astrology, and I love her for that. As somebody who, for me, first and foremost, I always come from an astrology background. Before tarot, for me, comes astrology. And I really love the fact that Liz Houston knows what she's doing. And the clouds here at the background, that great cosmos that she's working with, yet she is working, of course, in this collage style. I'm not an art expert, so I can't describe it much further, but I love the two faces. I love the fact that it's tough choices, and I like the fact that the horses are butting heads. I can't say more. If you are interested, if there is a deck that you want to, you kind of like are thinking, maybe I need to try it, it's definitely got to be the Dreamkeepers Tarot, and I definitely recommend it if you love astrology and you've been following astrology your life. It is a deck that is well worth investing in and having on your shelf, because at the end of the day, it's been done with a lot of hard work, a lot of attention to detail in conveying the message, and the messages of the myths and the messages of what goes on in the heavens and the skies and the cosmos. So this is the Chariot from the Dreamkeepers Tarot. Okay, so the next one, without further ado, I'm trying to go as fast as I can here. Okay, so this is a deck that I'm currently working with. So at the end of the month, you will have the monthly review for it. I have been blown away by this deck. It is another Llewellyn. It's another classic that many people have, but I had to include it. It is Tarot of the Hidden Realms, and this is the Strength card. I love the fact that she has a wolf here, because I really identify with wolf energy. I kind of like joke with this with some of my tarot tube friends, you know, that part I got to know. I'm like, you know, I know that there is a wolf within me basically, and I love the full moon as well. So I know some people like the void and the dark moon and new beginnings, and I'm really a full moon girl basically. So there you go. So this is the Strength card, and that wolf in there that she's taming and she's looking at, she's reassuring. And what I love about this is that the wolf's expression is one of focus. It knows what it wants to go for, but it's a beast. So I like the fact that this fae is taming the beast so that that focus of energy goes in the right direction. And for me, that's just really kind of like, you know, that's the strength I want to draw upon. So I love this. I love the fact that it's female empowerment. Again, I can't get enough of that. I am a lady that firmly believes in it. And I love this Strength card. So yeah, so that's Tarot of the Hidden Realm. I'm loving this deck. Okay. The next one is, again, another favorite. These are all favorites. Well, that's why they're appearing in this video, right? So let me just get that for you. Oh, where is it? Here it is. Hold on a second. Let me put these here and put this one there. Here it is. Okay, so the next one has got to be from Forest of Enchantment. And here is my Hermit. Here is the Hermit from the Forest of Enchantment. So let me get that right. There we go. This deck, and I've just heard Stevie mention it, and she took the words right out of my mouth. She got that before I did. Is reminds me of Wind in the Willows, or maybe I said that during the review. So I've already done a review of this deck. I absolutely love it. The Oracle of this deck is coming out next year already, so so looking forward to it. This is Linnea Weatherstone, and the art is Marella Allwood, and this Hermit for me is just such a fantastic representation of hibernation, but in comfort, calm, you know, that fire's lit. He's got the book there. He's going within, or she's going within, or they're really taking on that feeling of just, you know, of not just going within, but using that time to recuperate. I love the little attention to detail. The books up here, like there are shelves, little bottles here, like bottles and potions. This reminds me of Badger from Wind in the Willows. This deck is set in England. It's set in the countryside of England, in southern England, and it really reminds me of home as well. In Belgium, we're a lot more flat. This has got like rolling hills basically. So that's why I really love this deck so much. It reminds me a lot of home and the forests at home. Our forests are much more tighter and smaller in that way, but like there's a lot underneath. And this just shows that representation of the Hermit as the Forest of Enchantment. Okay, so without further ado, going on, the Wheel of Fortune. For the Wheel of Fortune, if I can get that right, it could be none other than a deck that I used last summer, which has got, again, it's art. It's all about art this time. I don't know what it is, but it's the Golden Wheel, and I had to pick it from the Golden Wheel. This is my representation of the Wheel of Fortune. They're tired, they're exhausted, but they're still going. And this is based upon like Slavic culture, Slavic patterns and so forth. And look at that beautiful embroidery. By the way, most of these are mass market decks. I'm going to list them all below anyway. So this is again another mass market deck. I just love the colors in this deck. I bought this deck because the art was just sublime. And I know sometimes people have too many decks and they say stuff like, oh, I can't keep this deck just because of the art, which I understand. Like, I understand that principle, because when we have like 200 decks, like we're like, oh my God, I have to clear out some. I get that, like, we have to put boundaries and everybody has their own boundary on what they can and cannot keep. I keep decks because of their art. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I do. And sometimes I just like to look at the art, and this beautiful representation of the Wheel of Fortune, the intricate details, the patterns in it, that Slavic culture is just so gorgeous. You know, Slavic culture is of course very closely tied towards culture of the terrain that we see basically when we go towards you know, Kazakhstan and Afghanistan and Azerbaijan and all those areas and regions of the world, which you know, that's when the patterns and the colors I start to really identify from my eastern side. And that's why I really sometimes see this and I go, wow, you know, like this is how they took that art and they made it their own and they did something special. I love the vibe of this deck. It's just so gorgeous. So again, this is Tarot of the Golden Wheel, and this is the Wheel of Fortune card. Okay, moving swiftly along. Okay, let's see if I can do this without dropping half of these cards either. Okay, so then we have to go towards Justice. Now, I have to say, I struggle with the Justice card because I understand it, but it's Libra energy, and Libra as a sun sign Scorpio, Libra is like my 12th sign. So there is this feeling when I go into Libra territory where it's like the realm, it's like the hidden realm basically for me. I know Libra, of course, is of justice and fairness and balance, and it's a beautiful energy, but it really is for me as a Scorpio where I get completely thrown out. I'm like, whoa. And that's what the 12th house is meant to do. The 12th house is the house where we break down, basically. This is where everything becomes dissolved because we're about to enter our first house again, where we come back again and we're born, basically. That's why it's called our sun sign. It's our sun return, basically, our solar return. So without further ado, I brought the Justice card out from the Hush Tarot. And the reason why I picked this was because I find that the Hush Tarot has a very strong energy of justice, of, you know, this world where nature rules, where there's death and decay and there's new life coming in. But it is it's a deck that if you find yourself feeling uncomfortable with things dissolving, decaying, falling to pieces, I mean, it's got some really graphic art in it sometimes, but I love it because it's really the rawness of nature and that fae, but in her very raw feeling world. It's an energy I adore, but you know, it's really kind of like that energy which I'm kind of like, you know, I really have to be grounded when I work with the Hush Tarot. And I love this Justice card because I think she's absolutely gorgeous. You know, this stunning woman, very poised, very strong, ready to deal out, you know, ready to deal out what's wrong or right, you know, and very strongly tied, of course, to the Judgment and Awakening card as well. But and I love it. I love just how she's so bold. She's so bold in this deck, and I think Jeremy Hush managed to capture this strong, wild, fey, air kind of energy and wood energy so well. I love the ants in here as well. Like, she's got her drones coming through, her ants and her bees, her drones. So she's in charge, and she will be meeting out Justice. That's what I see when I see this. I love this card. Okay, without further ado, this is the card that got me thinking about this challenge, because when I saw the hashtag 22 faves, this is the first card that came into my head. Okay, and strangely, this is one of, again, my most difficult areas of tarot. It is the Hanged Man. I think the Hanged Man is a beautiful card, but it's really one where I have to think really long and hard. I understand it's surrender. It's also a card of patience, seeing things differently, you know. It's for me, it's really the capture of that prayer, you know, that when I always think of prayer as like, you know, it's not about changing the situation, it's about changing me to meet the situation. And so when I see the Hanged Man, I see that coming through. And this is, of course, from the right way around. Oh, get them both the right way around. Yeah, that way around. Okay, there it is. This is the Hanged Man from the Darkwood Tarot. Now, this is by Sarah Graham, art by Abigail Larson. Now, this deck, this Hanged Man, I really love from this deck. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't worked for this deck yet, but I like it because it's intriguing. It's a different way of seeing the witch in a different form in a way, or this energy in a different form. Very cocooned, very much subject to the changes of time, but she's ready to open those eyes and see things differently, you know, from that otherworld perspective kind of thing. I love how she's just subject to the woods at this moment, because when we're in surrender form, the Hanged Man, there's a lot of also, I believe, this feeling of vulnerability. I was trying to find the word vulnerability, and so because we're just, you know, we're in a kind of like a sleep state or a temporal state, suspended. And so she has to trust that the woods are going to take care of her as she metamorphosizes. And I love that. I love the red, and I love the colors in this deck. And I kind of like was a little bit originally when I first worked with this deck, it wasn't exactly what I was expecting. I was expecting something else. But I want to revisit this deck actually and give it more, because I think it's a very clever deck. And again, here we go. Here's Hangman there from the Darkwood Tarot. Okay, without further ado, so yes, so this is kind of like, you know, one of my favorite decks of all time that I kind of like always come back to, and this is Death. So it had to be from my favorite deck of all time. This is Tarot of the Sidhe by Emily Carding, and this deck is going through a modification, so it's still got to do some more modification, but this is the Death card. Now we see the Fae energy and the glyph appearing on every card. This time the Fae is at the top of the tomb. So clever. We have here this owl, this feeling of like, come towards this, leading up to the glyph. This is where, you know, we go in to our place of rest. Within that hill, these trees just capturing that moment of like everything is changing, and you know, the path is lit. I could just, when I see this card, it just allows me to be my complete Scorpio, basically. That's the only way I can be. It allows me to know that I'm going to be taken care of. And like I say, I think that some of these cards, again, hark back to a space of vulnerability, because death for me is part of that as well. And I feel like when I'm in this card, that I am completely protected as well as I go into death, as I go into complete kind of like, you know, the transformation space that I am in. And I love the colors in this, the vivaciousness, the fact that I feel like there's this wind coming through, the strong wind. I know it's not I don't, I feel like there's a butterfly behind that owl. I can never be sure. I think it is. I think it's just gorgeous. I think she's an amazing artist. And yeah, and so when I was picking these cards, I just knew that like the Tarot of the She was going to appear, but I had to give her the Death card. So there you go. Okay, so that's the Tarot of the She there. Okay, so the next one, moving swiftly along. Now, this is Temperance, and Temperance is an interesting card for me. Temperance, of course, represents Sagittarius, and I'm a Sag moon. So, by the way, if you know your sun, moon, and rising, or sun, moon, and ascendant, it can be confusing. But if you know them and you know where they link to your cards in the major arcana, it's just a wonderful exercise. Like, what am I going to give this special place in my chart? So I'm a Sagittarius moon, and it's been a sign that I've had to really work to get to know, because it's about balance and moderation. It's about that centaur journeying to the next realm, you know, and to capture, it's Orion capturing the Scorpio basically, right? So it's almost like, you know, my centaur that wants to make sure that my Scorpio energy is used in the right way. That's how I think about my moon. I picked it from the Llewellyn deck because I think this is a gorgeous deck. Now, I worked with this deck in March, but I haven't done the review for it. It's a bit of a higgledy-piggledy situation going on here. So I need to come back to it. But I decided to pick, so this is Keeper of the Wells, and this is the deck, the Llewellyn Tarot. This is based upon Welsh mythology, and I have to say I had a huge difficulty in picking just one card from this deck, because this deck has beautiful cards. Look at the artwork there. That again, she's got this kind of like canine companion. She's pouring the waters into that well this time. So she's balancing the energies. She's underwater, so she's pouring water into a well underwater. Very clever. There is just something about this that's so ethereal. That's the best way I can put it. And that really helps me understand, you know, that this is about balancing and taking care of all those various elements coming together and making magic out of it, because that's what she's doing. So that's the Temperance card. Okay, so moving swiftly on. Now, this is my favorite major arcana card, and I have to be honest with you, this is where I pulled out the Rider-Waite-Smith. I had to. It's the devil. What more can I say? The devil, of course, in the classic form, I absolutely love. It's my favorite card. It's also when I calculated, it's also my birth card. So, haha, quite an irony. It's very Capricorn, and I love it. It's about addiction, bondage. You know, it's the culmination of the Lovers card, of course. Made the wrong choice. Now look what you're tied to. And I like the fact that this card here, the original representation, the Lovers, you know, you can see that they're not really that trapped. I mean, those chains are loose. They could just put down what they're holding and just take the chains off and walk off. But we don't. We stay tied to our addiction. We stay tied to the thing, you know. And it's all because, you know, that devil is telling us, you know, what will people think of us? I love the fact that it's, of course, the star upside down. So it's kind of like, I've got it all wrong, you know. It's like, for me, this card always helps me to tap into my biggest fear, which is what other people think. What other people think of me. It's my biggest fear. And this card really just shows, excuse me, like, you can just take that off and walk off. I love the wings, the original of the RWS. I think it's just been done so well. I love the fact that, you know, we've got here, again, these grapes. I think it's these grapes. Yeah, I also find, you know, I know it sounds a bit strange, but those flames sometimes remind me of the pomegranate, which is why I find it a very interesting card. I love the claws of his feet. I like the fact that he's a hairy goat. I mean, it's just, the whole thing is completely crazy. And he's on a cube. He looks like he's about to fall off any moment now. He's balancing on this cube. The whole thing is really, for me, kind of like, it's kind of like that wittiness of like, look what traps you, because what traps me or what traps anyone, it's actually not that bad, but it turns into my head as this monstrosity, basically. And I love the devil card for that. It really shows me kind of like the bogeyman, you know. So yeah, so my favorite card of the 22 major arcana, for that I did pull out the original RWS. Okay, without swiftly further ado, my favorite card from one of my favorite decks again. These are all my favorite decks, most of them. But anyway, it's got to be the Everyday Witch. Yes, and I pulled out the Tower card from the Everyday Witch. Here we go. And I love this deck. I've raved about it enough. Of course, this is a reminder of how much, you know, I love those. I love this deck because it's such a good reminder of, like, you know, I can just be myself. I can just be my fun self. I love the smirk on her face. I like the fact that that tower's come down, and I get the feeling she's brought it down actually. I like here her cat companion looks scared. She's got a smirk on her face, but I like the fact that she doesn't look phased. She's like, I can handle this. And I like that. I love the Everyday Witch because it's like the everyday things that we face, but handled very, very well. And kind of like the whole deck just completely allows me to just journey with it and say, let's just go for it and let's just see what life has to hold. And I think the art is beautiful. I do know that the same creators, Deborah Blake and Elizabeth Alba, they're making a new deck. It's going to be based upon the cat, I think, in the Everyday Witch. And I think it's coming out later this year. I can't remember. I do know that they're in the process of making the cards, so just be on the lookout for that. But this is the Tower energy, and I just love it. You know, I just like the fact that this is destruction of ego, but done with the case of like, okay, we're a little bit bruised. It's not great, but I can sort it out. Okay, next one. Okay, so that's the Star card now coming up. Oh my God, going through all of these. Okay, so we can put that there now. Oh, no, I need to go here. Okay, bear with me. It has to be, yep, the Star card here. And it is from the right way around, Greenwich Tarot. Oh, I absolutely, again, adore this deck. It is so earthy, so homely. And I think this is a beautiful representation of the Star. Just the way she's pouring those waters. I like the fact that she's completely immersed in that lake. I love the brightness of the Star coming through from the skies, from the cosmos. I love the broken branches, just the whole thing. And, you know, I like the fact that she's a fairy, basically. Again, this just taps into that fae energy, which is just really, yeah, just myself, basically. Yeah, you know, I can imagine myself in those kind of like waters. And I love the attention to detail, the little goldfish jumping out, you know. This deck has so much information on the flora and fauna. I think the guidebook's been done pretty well. The creators, of course, Anamora, and art by Kiri Ostergaard-Lenord, if I can get it right. I've already done a review on this deck, so I won't go further into it, but that's the Star card, and it's from the Greenwich Tarot. Okay, next one, of course, it has to be none other than, I'm trying to speed this up as fast as I can now, if I can find the deck to go with it. Bear with me as I look. Oh, there it is, hidden. Of course, there had to be the Deviant Moon, the Moon card. I had to be. So, puppets on a string, held to the whim of the moon. And for me, I love this, you know, it's about kind of like, you know, the unconscious rising up, you know, what's pulling my strings from my subconscious? What's got a hold on me? And I think that's just an amazing feeling, you know, of like, it's almost like, you know, look at the deviance below my conscious levels. I like just the way that Patrick Valenza does his art. It's just so playful. It's so Punch and Judy. This deck is very Punch and Judy. So if you like that kind of like wit and humor, it's very dark. I love this deck for it. I know it's not for everyone, but I really like it. This is the other side of the box. This is a mass market deck. He has currently got his Triumphi della Luna illustrated pips also to buy. I think there were only 500 copies of the Paradoxical and the illustrated. Sorry, the Paradoxical and the parchment versions. So if you want to snap up a copy of that, now is the time for that. But this is a mass market deck that you can get very readily from Amazon and so forth, and from Book Depository. But yeah, I just really like the way that the moon has been done in this card. It's so playful and deviant and devious, and what more can I say? Okay, This has got to be one of my harder cards because I'm not a huge fan. Again, it's one of those cards that I'm not a fan of. But then I realized where I could get my favorite representation for it. And I love the art from this deck. Sorry, I'm just having to pick it up because it's so huge. That's the Star Tarot. The art in this deck is beautiful. The guidebook is great, but the art is phenomenal. And this is the actual card itself for the representation of the sun. And the reason why I picked it was none other than I just thought it was beautiful. I think it's just, I'm not a huge fan of the naked baby. The whole thing on the horse looking like she are about to fall off and no. But I like the fact that this is like a wall of gardens. I like the yin yang symbol in the middle. I love, you know, how it looks like this flower opening. I just think the art is gorgeous in this card, and that's why I picked it for representation of the sun. I like the vibrancy. I love this butterfly. So it's really, you know, the transformation complete in a way. And you know, the sun really is about, you know, being in the now, being in the present. Like, this is it. We've come through the journey. We're coming out to the other side, and embrace it. And I think this was done very, very beautifully. So this is from the Star Tarot 2nd edition. Okay, so finally we get to Awakening, and Awakening of course is very Plutonian. It's the card that represents fire as well. Some say it's Pluto, some say it's the card representing the element of fire, and I had to pick it from none other than my favorite deck, the Herbcrafter's Tarot, a deck that I love, and it's Dulce. So this is basil, what you would say basil in the US. But I love Dulce because in India it's seen as a holy plant, really synonym with this feeling of just, you know, being in touch with our spirit, being in touch with our ancestors. But, you know, it's really a plant where when we smell it, we really feel like we're entering that realm of, you know, because in India, the feeling of incarnate and carnate is, it's, you know, it's kind of like it transcends so much. Like we you know, I have to, you know, one of the traditions that we have is like, for example, if there's a death, you know, of course it's very sad, but if a woman sees the procession of a funeral going on in India, I know it sounds really strange, it's meant to be good luck because it means that the deceased is passing on good vibes before they leave this world, kind of thing. And so, you know, I'm somebody that really loves that energy where death is kind of like just a part of our journey. That's sometimes how I see it. And so having Dulce as the card for Awakening, I thought was beautiful because it's a really good representation of kind of like that life after, you know, that we go on, and it's just a state of cleansing and a reckoning, you know. We come to terms with what has been, but we're also moving on now and embracing new life. And I just think that's such a beautiful representation from the Herbcrafter's Tarot. Okay, and so finally we come to the World card, and I thought the best way to round this one up, if I can find the deck for it, excuse me for a moment as I try and navigate all of this. Where is the deck for it? See, this is where I've lost it. I've completely lost it. Where is it? Oh, I think I might not be able to find it at this very moment because there's so much stuff on here. Okay, I'm just going to move swiftly along. I had to pick from, so this is none other than, of course, you know, the Thoth. So this is the World card, and the reason is that I really wanted to bring Thoth in, and I think this is beautiful. I love here, you know, that serpent energy going on. I like the fact that she's mixed in with it. I love how, again, we have all of the astrology symbols represented. I love it when a tarot creator, and of course in this case it's Crowley, but when a creator knows their astrology, at least enough to not butcher it when they make it. So I'm still looking for the actual deck itself, which I don't know where I've put it. It's like, whoa, I got all of it ready, and then of course I lost this one. But you know what the Thoth deck looks like. You know how it looks. If I can grab at least another copy of it, if you just give me a moment, I will. Oh, it's back there somewhere. Probably lost it. Oh, see, I think this is a second copy of it, so I'll get this one out. This is my French edition. You see, that's how many I have. So this is my French edition of it. This one you're seeing is from the English edition. There's not much of a variation between them. Strangely, by the way, if anybody lives in Europe, the French edition is slightly cheaper. It's also slightly more handleable. But the French edition is slightly cheaper than the English one. And I mean, really, like, you're not going to get lost between the keywords between French and English, trust me. So if I were you, I would buy the French version, I think. And also the backs are cooler on the French version. But anyway, this is the Thoth Tarot and this is the universe. And I had to bring Thoth in. But, you know, whenever I use a Crowley card, I really appreciate the work that he does around the astrology. And even with his pips and the numerology and the way that the colors are done, the design is done. I mean, I see all these kind of like, you know, this is a Thoth deck. I'm sorry, but I'm really kind of like a blue blood Thoth. Like, I really need to just see the actual Thoth deck. The rest can be Thoth inspired, but for me, the fact that the whole thing just hangs upon a contortion and a whole display and a vivaciousness of colors, symbols, geometry, placements, design. The whole thing is like poetry, cosmic poetry of tarot. And then for me, it just doesn't make sense, all of these other kind of like decks that I see. They can be Thoth inspired, but for me, I really just need the true deck, sorry, to really work with it, which I've actually lost somehow, the English version. But there you go. But that's, again, the Thoth Tarot from Aleister Crowley. This is the AGM French edition that I'm showing you here. This is from the English edition. Okay, so with that, I'm going to wrap up because we are 47 minutes in. This hopefully will also, if anybody is looking to buy new decks, maybe give you a bit of a run through, basically. I'm going to stop very soon. Everything will be listed below. Of course, I'm going to try and timestamp it as best as I can. So that way you can just go to whatever you want. Have a lovely rest of the week. There will be more pop-ups, I think, this week. Until then, I will see you soon. And again, take care now. Bye.